In this video, you're going to learn about data types in Python. This is fundamental to your success in mastering the language. Knowing the different data types enables you to use them appropriately. Okay, so what am I talking about here more specifically? Well, Python recognizes a whole host of data types. So we have numbers such as integers, floats, and complex numbers. Then we have strings, booleans, lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. There are experts that include some of these into data structures and not data types, and I'm referring to lists, tuples, and dictionaries. However, we are going to mention them here and insist more on each individually later on. It is also important to point out that these are very broad categorizations of them and that they can be dissected even further should you want to be granular. So in another way of categorizing them, some people mention the primitive data types, which are the most used in Python, and these are the integers, the floats, the strings, and the booleans. These are probably the ones that we're also going to insist on. Now, for the sake of simplicity and good understanding, like I said, we'll be sticking to the primitive ones. And I'm going to start with integers. So let me open up a Python interpreter shell. So in command prompt, I just typed Python. If you're in Windows, do the same. If you're in Mac or Linux, open a terminal and type Python. So starting with numbers, we have the integers. These are the whole numbers. So for example, 8 is an integer. And how do we know Python sees it like that? Well, for that we use the type method, which is a built-in method. So we'll say type 8, and it says class int. So it's of class integer. Now, if I say type 2019, it's going to say the same thing. Or let's say type -55, and it's going to say the same thing. So these are all integers. So Python doesn't care about the sign in this case. Then we have the float, or the numbers with the decimals. So we'll say type 3.9, which is a float. Or let's say type -21.48, which is also a float. So you get the idea. Then we have the complex numbers, which, to be really honest, I've mostly never used a practitioner in Python. So in this case, we have, let's say, type 18 plus 4j, and this is a complex number. All right, now moving away from numbers, we have the strings. So strings are usually encapsulated within quotes. Strings can be single characters between quotes. They can be words, sentences, and the like. So for example, if I say type C between quotes, this is a string. Or if I say type cyber between quotes, this is also a string. And also type cyber is the new word. This is also a string. Okay, so these are the string data types. Then we have the booleans, or true or false. So if we say type true, we have a bool class, and type false, we have the same thing. Then we have lists. So like I said, these four, integers, floats, strings, and booleans, these are the primitive data types, and they are the most used. But for the sake of actually knowing a few of them better, I'm also going to briefly mention lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So let me just make a little bit of a space here. So lists are defined between square brackets. So if we say type and then square bracket 2, 3, 4, this is a list. Then we have tuples, which are defined by parentheses. So if I say type, the same thing, 2, 3, 4, but now in parentheses, this is a tuple. Then there's the set, which is defined by curly brackets. So if I say type, curly bracket, 2, 3, 4, the same thing. This is a set. And then we have the dictionaries. So defining dictionaries is similar to the set because we use curly brackets. However, what differentiates one from another is that in dictionaries, one position or one element is made of a pair. So the pair being made of a key and a value. So the easiest example would be, let's say, type, curly bracket, say car, colon, Mercedes. So this is of class dictionary. Now notice the colon symbol. We could further define more elements within the same dictionary using a comma to separate them. So if I say the same thing, car, Mercedes, then comma, and let's say year 1989, and also let's say color, black, and that's also a dictionary. Now, like I said, we could go even further in exploring the depth of data types, but I believe this is enough to have a good foundation of them. These are the types that you'll encounter in at least 80% of the situations, and I don't want to clutter your mind with concepts that may not be necessary in most of the situations. Alright, in the next video we're going to discuss Python variables and get deeper into Python strings.